Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd Edition. Okay, so let me have this camera focus. Okay, so this is time to talk about Through the Drakwald. This is a campaign that I've been doing for my players, and so far we've done 3 sessions, so I'll just call this one session 1. That might be confusing for the people who are watching this video, but keep with me here. So, in this adventure, basically, there's this guy, and this is before the story starts. This guy called Archeon, kind of a badass chaos overlord, who goes to attack Middenhiem, right? And Middenhiem, wait, no, I'm using the wrong word. Middenhiem. He goes to attack Middenhiem. Doesn't get his ass handed to him, but he doesn't break into the keep. And he leaves. And this is part of the events called the Storm of Chaos, which was a event that had to do with like the campaign for Warhammer, and this is like the aftermath of that. And oh boy, was that quite a battle, because Middenhiem was actually one of the cities that, well, not cities, it was one of the towns that held off extremely successfully against the horrors of chaos, especially against Kazakh One-Eye, which Boris and Kazakh himself fought each other off on the bridge of Middenhiem. So, very cool story beginning. So, we, after many months of, after a couple months of raining, or weeks of raining, the rain stops, and there's a bunch of Murray outside. So the players, I have the players in separate rooms, and each of these, if I remember correctly, it was Rick's character, who was a student. I forget his name, but I'll be sure to remember it sometime. I'm just not good at Rick's characters' names, but Rick's character, he goes to investigate this crowd, and then we start messing around with the system, with the percentile system, which he had to roll under, but it was extremely easy because, like, it was good news, and he was rolling for gossip. He successfully rolls, and he hears that, about the rumor of the chest, which was under the river, but he also hears that, Toddbringer was going to bring him supplies. And so like the rest of the, I believe it was 3 PCs came over to the back of the crowd because the crowd was so huge. And so I have Captain Schiller, which I accidentally named him to Captain Schmidt because Schiller is harder to say. Like, let me just say. J-Trick. Wait, where is he? Not here? He should be. Here he is. Yeah, his name was let me focus this. His name was Gerlin Schiller. I just called him Captain Schmidt. Easier. However, I realized that caused a little bit of a problem because there's a couple of characters in a inn called the Scholars in Middenhiem, which actually have the same name, the last name is Schmidt. And usually when you have when you call yourself Captain Schmidt, it wouldn't be your first name. It would usually be your last name. I don't actually know much about captains and like war general history, but usually that's the case. So in my head anyway. So that's gonna be fun to explore. With what I'm gonna talk about. So these players, they hear his speech about how fucking Toddy, Todd Bors, Toddy Borders, the Toddington. We just call him fucking Toddy. So Toddy, he's not actually there because he's honey fucking chaos, and chaos is like, it's invasive, as you know. Schmidt basically is like, but you know what? He's got us that bread, and everybody's like, whoa, because food. And he's like, ooh, that fucking wine. And everybody's like, whoa, wine. And so like he starts to like pour out a glass bottle, and then the bottle shatters, and then he gets drenched in wine. And then the crowd panics because they realize that there is someone armed with a fucking gun. And as the PCs turn around, they get to fight mutants. Now, what I liked about this was that it immediately led to combat, and it got me thinking into stuff and figuring out some stuff. And so for this fight, they had to fight on they were fighting on a bridge, and we were figuring out movement. This movement is different from D&D. Usually in D&D, you would move each space 5 feet. In this, however, you would move by yards instead of feet. So what we do is that usually you see this movement. So, you would have 4 movement, right? So, for moving to gauge, that'd be times 2, which would be 8. But, because we're going by squares, we would do basic matches, divide by 2, and turn these back into squares. And he can move 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's as much as you can move with half action of move. Or run. Or running leap. Or standing leap. But you basically get the idea that I had to figure out movement quite quickly, but also I had to, after this battle and after the end of this first session, I had to basically I had to basically get rid of okay, so you notice the toughness, right? Which would be 3 toughness bonus. So originally I was like, oh yeah, magic's just 5, right? Wrong. Magic's not just 5. You need to roll a d10 with each magic damage. This was confusing because the book doesn't make a clear example of this with like a magic, like minusing the toughness bonus and everything like that. So, and there was this weird example which he used the Doom of Flagration. If anybody knows that spell, that's not a normal spell to use as an example. So I was really confused for a couple of weeks, and I decided to just damage for magic missile, which magic missile is really good, but you need to roll high, and you need to do some casting just in case you roll on a 5. It basically does like a good amount of damage. and it's guaranteed to cause more than one wound for a toughness bonus. But each of these mutants had like different things on them, which I kind of liked. I didn't use a secret mutant, probably because I think I'm gonna use them later for when the characters might come back. Maybe he's gonna sacrifice it to Zinch or something stupid like that. That after the battle, these 4 mutants were super killed by the dwarf, who was the Slayer. Yeah, okay. So I should probably explain who the party members are. So, be me, DM. That's how all stories should go. I have, so in the party, there is an elf apprentice wizard, which I gotta say, the roles for my campaign so far has been really good for getting the careers that you specifically want. And I'll get into that later, but, okay, so there's the Dwarf Slayer. There is the Elf Apprentice Wizard, which, yeah, that's the good combo. You have the, oh yeah, the student. And those were like 3 characters that were there. And that's when we end the session. They gained some XP, and the way I'm doing XP for this campaign, and I'm probably gonna do it for the rest of the campaigns, is so there's a thing called abstract XP, which means that at the end of every session, everybody gets 100 XP. No matter what, everybody gets 100 XP. And the reason why I do this is because time is experience. Time is very important experience. And I really like that rule. And it kind of it doesn't necessarily encourage. If that was the only way to gain XP, that would encourage being like a boring ass party, right? But I've done another thing, which is just difficulty experience. So this specifically, this incentivizes the players that whenever they go into like a combat encounter or a maybe social encounter, it's gonna be hard. If they succeed at it, they'll get a good amount of XP, which is like 30 XP, and that could build up to another 100 XP. And I really like that because it incentivizes players to do more stuff. And I've been making my players think about that a lot more, with just, you know, if you want to advance through your career faster and get more shit done, do more stuff to the party, do more things that are productive toward your career, such as practicing your skill, and like rolling for your how much you do and stuff like that, or you know, doing stuff with other party members is like the main way to get a good amount of XP in this game. And I really like that. And there are also the set-in campaign like XPs that each character will get if they complete the specific part of that campaign, which I really like. So this is session 1. I'll later talk about session 2 in another video. I should probably talk about some stuff. Okay, so but before I end this video, so Schmidt, he was more of an introduction character in this first session, and I barely mentioned Granny, because no one really got injured. I don't think anybody got injured, because the dwarf that good, and wizard that much of a coward. Well, not much of a coward. smart coward, and the student just ran away. Well, he ran away, and I was gonna give him the XP for the encounter because, you know, I don't like going off like D&D. You need to kill the thing in order to win. More of you can be smart, get a weapon, come back and fight, which he was going to do. But the dwarf slayed everything really quickly. Yeah, I barely mentioned Granny in this chapter. And I'll talk about the character details later in the next session.